2. Hi, I'm Stephanie Freid for CGTN, and where I am right now is on the Israeli side of the Gaza-Israel divide. Specifically where I'm standing is in a burnt out field. And why is it burnt out? Let me tell you a little bit about the history of where I am, why I'm here, why is this a burnt out field. First of all, Gil, who's running the camera, let's take a little bit of a look around. I'm going to show you what you can see here, which is, this is scorched earth. When people say scorched earth, that's what you're seeing right now, which is blackened earth caused by fires, specifically brush fires, wildfires in nature that run wild. And during the past month or so, during the past, since March 30th, 2 months, what's happened is, in Gaza, they started with what's called the March of Return. So they started coming to the dividing area on the Gaza side, protesting, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. There was a standoff with Israel's army. Dozens of people were killed. Thousands of people, it depends on who you talk to now about the numbers, were injured. And as retaliation on the Gaza side for what they were saying that the Israeli army was targeting them and wounding them and so on, what they started doing was sailing kites and balloons across from Gaza into Israel, into this entire area surrounding the divide between the two sides. On the Israeli side, it's agricultural and it's wild area and wildlife area and forest area, burning kites, burning balloons. Now, that probably doesn't sound like much to a viewer who would say, big deal, kites, right? But I'm going to have Gil show you around again, take another look around, and we're going to walk a little bit. I mean, this is the damage that's done by kites, balloons, what they're set on fire. And in a minute, I'm going to be joined by someone who has been working with the people here. He lives here and working every single day relentlessly to put out the fires and to control this and do on the Israeli side what they can do to stop the damage. So that's the setting that I'm in right now. And incidentally, I'll just very quickly, let me see if I can find one of these, because the person who I'm about to be joined by in a few minutes, he explained to me, we're going to get real close up here. This is brush fire that's been damaged. What is this called, you said?
Brush.
Which? Broom brush. And as you can see, it's green again. So this is the burnt part. But what Rami, who's going to join me in a minute here, told me is that this burns like crazy and just spreads like crazy, but very quickly also it mends itself and turns green again, which is pretty amazing. So that's the setting. Now let me talk about the damage. You've got thousands and thousands of acres all in the vicinity, up and down the coast along Gaza on the Israeli side, that have been damaged. And we're talking about the $1.4 million that's the number that I've got. That's about the damage assessment, the cost. Wheat crops, and what else has been damaged? Actually, Rami, why don't you just come over here and join me? I'm going to tell you who I'm with. This is Rami Gold.
Hi. And
he lives here in this area. He's the person I talked about who's been fighting relentlessly against these fires. Today's kind of a quiet day, but talk to me about some of the crops that have been damaged, if you will.
Well, mostly is the wheat that got damaged. It was burned. It burns like crazy. And the second thing is forests. And as you know, Israel is not a country that has a lot of rain in it. So we brought a lot of trees from Australia that can grow in the desert area and less rain. And after 60, 70 years, it burns completely. Everything, you have to restart everything. So we try to do the best we can to keep whatever is possible. And we understand that the next days or weeks are probably going to be more of the same. So we fight on a daily basis.
And that's what, you know, I'll take a step back from Rami and talk to you about when we got here. Today, Friday, it's a quiet day. Although, Hamas, which runs the show in Gaza, they're in control in Gaza, and they had promised that today, on Friday, this is also the Eid al-Fitr, the end of Ramadan holiday, that they were going to sail about 5,000 balloons and fiery balloons and fiery kites across the divide into Israel, do more damage, wreak havoc. But what happened is that Israel's army has started firing warning shots. They've said that they're not going to shoot at people that they see sailing kites over, but they have warned them. And Hamas backtracked, and they said, "Okay, you know what? We're gonna backtrack from that. We're not going to send 5,000 over on Friday." But as Rami just told us, the expectation is that that may be easing up for today. Not for the long haul. And back to the damage, beyond the $1.4 million, thousands of acres, wildlife, the fires that have just gone across fields and wildlife reserves, and they've also shut down highways, roads. And let me talk to you about, and let me find this in my notes, the animals that have been displaced because of these fires. And you know what? I'm just going to call it up from memory because I can't find it right now. But we're talking about desert foxes, deer, rabbits, wild boar, all the small bobcats. Tell me about some of the other. What are some of the small?
The main problem is animals can escape, either dig deep enough to hide from the rain, from the fire, or they can run away. The problem is the reptiles and the slow animals that get either smoked or burned, and we have no idea.
What are you looking at? Sorry, you just pointed at that. Gil, the cameraman, just saw something, pointed at something. What are you seeing? Let's show the viewers.
Down on the floor.
Oh, it's on. What? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, we're just seeing and he's talking about the slow things. That may seem to some like, oh, it's just a snail, but a snail is a snail is a snail. They're also part of the environment and part of lending control to parts of the environment in terms of their function, which I don't know well enough, but every animal and parasite and so on has a function in terms of the balance of our environment. Ecosystem, thank you. And a story that Rami told me earlier, which was very sort of, that was very heartfelt, was, or pulling on the heartstrings, is that deer, they run off. They're able to run away when the brush fires come through here. But there's nowhere really for them to go. There's not a lot of space. This is a small country. And that when they'd come back the next day, he and his teams and the volunteer firefighters, they would find deer lying on this black scorched earth because it's home. That's all they know, so that's where they'd come back to. When we saw here today, I said that what we saw when we came here today, I said that it was a quiet day. Hamas apparently has called off the attack for today. We saw some volunteer firefighters running around in this area, but it's fairly quiet, and we're just sort of walking around. Rami is showing us around. But of course, in being around with Rami's also talked a little bit about some of the things that have happened here in this 2 months of kite and balloon fires. And you told me about the roughest day that you saw out here, which was, go ahead.
Look, the main problem is usually around this time of the day, most of the fires already occurred, and the wind is very strong and is steady all through the evening. And
let me just stop here for a second. The wind, this is hot wind. It's really blazing hot out here, and the wind, it's about 38 degrees Celsius, which is in Fahrenheit about 100 degrees. I looked it up. And so that combined with the wind, go ahead.
We got to the point that all the firefighters we had ran out of water, and the fires kept popping up, because it was mainly either from balloons or kites. And we got to the point we had to decide which area is going to get burned completely and which area we're going to help.
And how many fires? You told me there were how many fires that day?
Well, average day is around 11 fires per day, per afternoon. So it was around 20 that day, and we ran out of water. So we had to...
What'd you do?
You had to give it up, some of it. So well, the thing is, we've been doing it for almost 2 months already. So we have a lot of volunteers with pickups and containers with water, with pumps, and they are on the on the WhatsApp with us, and every time everything happens, they run straight out as fast as they can, and they get in between when the fire trucks run out of water. They get in and they hold there long enough till they come back, full up with water. And I got to tell you something: the Israelis, as far as back to the wall, they work excellent.
You're saying when their backs are to the wall, they work well.
Great together, because we have professional firefighters. We have the KKL, those who belong to the forest, the Department of Forestry, and we have volunteers from the area, and they work together for almost 2 months.
And that's what you were saying to me earlier, which I wanted you to tell our viewers, which is you've got people coming in, volunteers from all over the country, firefighters and environmentalists, and I mean, how many people do you get down here per day average that are helping out from all over the place?
The area is so wide and the fires are so strong.
That's you, not me. Wait, he may want to go ahead and get that. Do you want to get that?
Could be a fire.
Hang on, we're going to see if we've got a fire. We're going to wait and see. While he's checking if there's a fire. Okay. Okay, so there is a fire. He just got a report of a fire, but it's how many kilometers would you say it is from here?
It's around 20 kilometers from here.
Okay, I got a question for you. Let's say this is going to carry on, and the hotter it gets, which we're headed into, like we're not into the deep summer right now, and deep summer is hotter and drier. What is there a strategy change? I mean, I know that the Israeli army has called in drones, but in terms of you on the ground, a community member living here, trying to save your fields, and you also, after that, talked to us about your special hobby / special interest in this, in preserving the areas. But is there another strategy maybe that you'll be taking to stop this, or?
Look, as a civilian, all I can do is do the best I can to slow down the damage. I can't stop it. I can slow down the damage and give the government enough time to think of what I want to do. So we're going to keep this area as green as possible, as long as possible, until something happens. And hopefully the other side will understand it's no gain-gain situation. They're losing as well, because their side is not gaining anything. They're just punishing us, but they're not gaining anything. Their livelihood is not getting any better.
And let me interject as well. The Israeli government says, as of Thursday, yesterday, they said that they will be charging. They're going to withdraw all the damage money. So the cost of all these damages, they're going to withdraw that from the money that they pay to the Palestinian Authority every month. So beyond the damage that it's doing, it's also going to be a fiscal hit to Gaza. So
look, you have to understand that the situation as a civilians is complicated, because sometimes in the morning we go out to one of the gates to Gaza Strip to take sick people to be hospitalized in Israel, mainly cancer, and then in the afternoon we come back to fight the fires. So it's a complicated situation, but in order to live in a country like this, in an area like this, you have to be very optimist.
And how far are we literally, right now, where we're standing, to Gaza, let's say?
Less than a mile.
A mile, which is in a kilometer.
A kilometer and change.
A kilometer and change. Okay.
The reason we could get close enough is because we have trees between us. Otherwise, it would have been too dangerous to be here.
Yeah, and we were just looking over. If we climb up some of these, like Gil's going to show you all the hills around here that we've got. If we were to climb up some of these, you can literally see Gaza from here. We're just right in the middle of a thicket of burned out, scorched earth again. But we'll climb up here. I'm not sure, but you can see it's very hilly, lots of trees. These are the ones that haven't been affected. I found something very interesting also that Rami told me earlier, which is that it's not cypress trees, it's which ones will survive?
Eucalyptus.
The eucalyptus trees in this area that have been burnt will survive, but the pine trees won't, and that's because eucalyptus is used to a desert environment where the pine is not. So that's an interesting tidbit. And then the last thing, Rami, tell us about it's more than a hobby, but why you have a vested interest in preserving this area, please.
Besides, this is part of Israel. My work is to plan and build mountain bike trails all over Israel. And in order to let people come over ride on the trails, we would like to have some green around it. So from that point of view, I try to help as much as I can to the people who are responsible for the forestry and natural reserve.
You're a mountain biker.
Yeah, sure.
And you get a lot of people here on the weekends, like going through the area?
In the peak of the season, we get 1,000 people per day. This is one of the most famous riding areas in Israel, one of the oldest.
Okay.
And we'd like to keep it that way.
Right.
In order to do so, we need to
preserve it.
preserve it and
Okay.
fight it.
So, I mean, essentially, we're hitting you on a quiet day here from the...
I gotta be a bit pessimistic. It's not the end of the day yet.
Oh, it's not the end of the day
We
yet.
already had two fires, and we have the third one near Sderot, I told you about.
Which is about 20K from here.
You'll probably be able to see the smoke pretty soon.
Okay.
And
So you're saying it's still, the
continue.
day is still early.
You have to understand that the other side is not Hamas. It's fractures of other groups, and they can sometimes do it in despite.
Even though Hamas puts out the order, they say, too bad, we're doing what we want. So, and that's like Islamic Jihad, or you have branches of the Muslim Brotherhood. Can you, Gilly, that drone up there, I just wanted to see, can you see that with the camera if you turn around? Now you see that drone, that's an eye in the sky, as opposed to a drone, and that would be the Israeli army, and they put that up to survey what's happening all along the border area. So I can hear the drone noise, and it's all over this area. I can see several drones further away, further down south from where we are. As well, the Israeli army, to combat these kite and balloon, you know, the burning, the incendiary kites and balloons, they're knocking them out with drones. That was a new tactic on the part of the IDF, but just wanted to bring that in. Day is young. You heard it from Rami, so we're going to see, we're going to stick around here, see if there are fires. If there are fires, we're going to follow it. We're going to report on that. So please catch it on CGTN. Catch us live and continuing with this story on social networks, on social platforms, on CGTN. Thank you for joining us today. Again, Stephanie Freid signing off from the Israeli side of the Gaza-Israel border.